This is our place, come on in. Our place, so glad you're here. Our place, everybody's welcome. We see God on every face. Love lives here in this place. Welcome to our place, our sweet place.
Hi there, friend. I am Reverend Jody Hill Stevenson, the senior minister here at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley, and I welcome you to our online ministry. We are so excited to share with you our inspiring science of mind philosophy. You know, you're part of a worldwide ministry who believes in the oneness of the divine and the power of positive thinking. I invite you to come on in, open your mind, and welcome into your heart the love and the support that we all have for you. Grab a cup of tea, come on in, and feel our love. We'll see you inside. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. My name is Jim Babcock, and I'm the practitioner of the day. Welcome. Let's begin the day by going within. So if you'd like to close your eyes with me, we'll take a moment to get centered and realize that this moment, this divine time, is irrelevant, for it is all God's time. For God, Spirit, divine nature is present here and now, and always surrounding us, enfolding us, lifting us up in ways we can yet imagine. And if you and I are in this moment together, we are connected beyond all reality. It is within our essence that God works and connects each one of us and allows us to grow and be in this moment, living our lives in a way that allows the love, the joy, the compassion, the wisdom just to flow from one to the other, moving in and out and all around, bringing us together in harmony. And I know today that here in the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley, we claim this birthright. We claim this divine energy, this flow, this one moment in time, for we are each connected on that vibrational level, allows us to be more than we've ever imagined before. We are alive with spirit. There's nothing else for us to do. There's nothing else for us to know. We just need to be in this moment right here, right now. And I declare that we hold everything within us that is needed for this entire planet, for this universe, for we are divine souls on a sacred mission, sharing who we are and how we show up in a way that makes a difference in the world. I give great thanks for this moment in time. I give great thanks for everything that the divine has blessed us with and opened us up to. I give great thanks for each one of you bringing your energy forth and allowing each one of us to share this beautiful vibration. So I just let that be. And in total, complete calm, I let go and say, and so it is. And as we do every Sunday, let's say our purpose, our mission, and our vision together. Our purpose: celebrating divinity, embracing humanity, and creating community. Our mission: providing tools and support to awaken our community to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision: inspiring and uplifting every one of us to transform the world. That is exactly who we are. That's how we show up in the world, and that's how we know we are connected. And if you look over my shoulder here, there's a candle lit in the background representing the light that is within each one of us, that we see when we look at each other and we see when we look within. Always remember that light is there no matter how dark it may be. Just close your eyes and go within, and you'll see that spark. You'll see it light up everything. And from there, everything becomes easy. So I have a few readings today to support our speaker. The first one is, for if we truly believed in the eternal light, we would not believe in the power of external forces, and we would not be so easy to dominate and control. We would not be tempted to see our hair and clothes and makeup as sources of so much of our self-esteem, and the ideal beauty of a fashion model as a sign that we are not beautiful at all. That's from Marianne Williamson. Next, you do not become good by trying to be good, but by finding the goodness that is already within you and allowing that goodness to emerge. But it can only emerge if something fundamental changes in your state of consciousness. That would be Eckhart Tolle. And finally, if you obsess over whether you are making the right decision, you are basically assuming that the universe will reward you for one thing and punish you for another. The universe has no fixed agenda. Once you make any decision, it works around that decision. There is no right or wrong, only a series of possibilities that shift with each thought, feeling, and action that you experience. If this sounds too mystical, refer again to the body. Every significant vital sign, body temperature, heart rate, oxygen consumption, hormone level, brain activity, and so on, alters the moment you decide to do anything. Decisions are signals telling the body, mind, and environment to move in a certain direction. That's from Deepak Chopra. So if you would like to just close your eyes for a moment and take in this affirmation. Every aspect of my being is immersed with love, peace, and prosperity as I fully embrace my inner champion. Every aspect of my being is immersed with love, peace, and prosperity as I fully embrace my inner champion.
Alleluia, 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 alleluia. We are one now. 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 So we sing Alleluia. Alleluia.
Hallelujah. Let's pray. So you like to go within, close your eyes and just be here right now and know that God is present and we are connected. We are part of the whole and support each other fully and completely as God lifts each one of us up and says yes to whatever it is that we have within us. I know today here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Boulder Valley, we live our lives in a way that transforms the world. We live in a prosperous, vital, unbelievably beautiful universe that is filled with wealth and health and everything that we ever could need and more. This church, this center is alive with the energy that we provided, that we open ourselves up to and let flow through each one of us. It is our birthright. It is who we are. It is how God shows up with each one of us. I give thanks for each one of you opening your hearts today. I give thanks for the divine, for blessing us in such a unique and beautiful way that we each can show up just as we are, and it's absolutely perfect. And I just let this all go knowing that God is already got it, and we don't have anything else to do. So I say, thank you, God, and so it is.
Well, I said, yes, well, I am the light, I am the light in this world, in this world. I am the light, I am the light in this world, in this world. This is the place, this is the time, let it shine. I feel the joy, I feel the joy in this world, in this world. I feel the joy, I feel the joy in this world. Right place, a right time, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine. I feel love every day, talking love every day, spreading peace along the way, peace along the way. And I feel joy every day, I'm feeling peace along the way. Gonna let that light shine. I am the light, I am the light, I'm the light, gonna let it shine. How about you? I am the light, we are the light, we're gonna let that light of ours shine. 'Cause it's the right place, it's the right time, gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yeah.
Okay, I love our speaker today. Talk about being so fortunate to have a soul brother like Chris Natzke. He is one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. He has influenced my life in ways that neither of us thought would happen. And he is just, he's the type of person that you always feel better because he's on the planet.
Our speaker today believes that each has the mind of a championship. Through his qualities of a black belt leadership, Chris will show how each of us can positively impact our communities and our lives by accessing our own inner champion. So, how does he know about this? Well, after a successful 10-year career as a corporate sales manager, Chris turned his attention to his real passion, transforming lives through martial arts and its leadership principles. For over 4 decades, he has been a dedicated student and teacher of the martial arts, achieving the rank of 8th. It's like the highest degree black belt master instructor. In 1999, he was the United States National Taekwondo champion. He now works as a leadership coach, professional speaker, and is author of his book, Black Belt Leadership. And I have to tell you, over the years, I have worked with some of the best speakers on the planet. I've been trained by them, and then I have trained people. And I have to say that Chris is one of the top 3 speakers I have ever heard. So please help me in welcoming our speaker, the wonderful Chris Natzke.
Well, thanks, Reverend Jody, for that introduction. And thank you so much to the Boulder Valley community for asking me to come back and speak. I had such a great time sharing my message last time. And for those of you that maybe were able to hear it, last time I was here, I talked about how I began my own personal journey in the science of mind and spirit, as well as some ideas that I had and some strategies for how we could use those principles of our teaching to navigate through challenging times. Well, today, Reverend Jody asked me to come back and speak on a topic that I think I'm pretty well versed to speak about, is how martial arts and the science of mind and spirit both collaborate and conjoin that have as a way of influencing my life in a very powerful way. And where there are some commonalities in the principles and the strategies and the teachings that we use in both of these. Now, the martial arts and science of mind and spirit has had a tremendous impact on my life. And in fact, sometimes it's difficult for me to discern where one begins and where one ends. But it's my intention this morning in our time together for me to kind of share my ideas on how there are parallels between these two teachings and how you can use these in your own life, whether you're a black belt or not. So that's what I want to share with you today. So I thought the best way for me to begin this sharing is to share with you how I began my martial art journey. I began my martial art training back in 1973. I was a short little chubby kid. I was enamored with a TV show at the time that some of you more seasoned church members here will remember, called Kung Fu. Yeah, Kung Fu. It was a story about this Shaolin monk named Kwai Chang Caine, who was walking across the American desert. And he'd walk into this cow town, and these bad guys would give him a hard time and try to beat him up, and he'd take care of him using his Kung Fu. And when you're 10 years old, it's the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I literally begged my mom to let me go to my first training. And I remember it like it was yesterday. These people doing these amazingly powerful and precise moves. And I literally felt like I came home. And about 3 years after that, I would meet a man that would change my life forever. In fact, he's still my instructor to this day. His name is Grandmaster J.K. Lee. Now, Grandmaster Lee had recently moved from Korea. He had hardly a dime in his pocket. He had very limited use of the English language, but he had this burning desire to transform lives through martial arts. And one of the first times I was in his class, I was seated in the corner of the room. My legs were spread wide. I was stretching out, getting ready for the training that morning. And that's when it happened. He walked onto the mat like he always did, this amazing power, this amazing presence. And he began surveying all the students on the mat. And pretty soon I realized his eyes were locked directly on me. And before I could move a muscle, he had come over and sat down in front of me. And he put his right foot on the inside of one leg, his left foot on the inside of the other. He grabbed the ends of my belt, and with one push-pull, he split me out to 180 degrees. I learned 2 very, very valuable life lessons that morning, my friends. Number 1 is anyone, yes, anyone, can do the splits once. But the second thing I learned is when he looked at me deep in the eyes and he said to me in his broken English, he said, I will make you a champion. I will make you a champion. Now, when you're 13 years old, all you can think about is medals and trophies and Olympic glory. And I literally glided home to tell my parents what Grandmaster Lee had told me. But when I reflect back on that, over 4 decades ago, I start to realize that he wasn't meaning just a champion in the ring. He was meaning being a champion in life, about having a purposeful vision for what I wanted to create, giving me tools to be able to move through obstacles, and then also have the persistence to take action so that I can best share my gifts in the world and serve. And so many of those basic principles that I learned in martial arts, you could also say to what I've learned through my journey through the science of mind and spirit. You see, we have a saying in martial arts that a champion doesn't need to be told what to do. They just need to be reminded. And reminded not just from a standpoint of recollection, of remembering, but a standpoint of reminding, changing our minds, right? And that's just exactly what we do in the science of mind and spirit. So with that being said, I want to share with you what I consider to be 3 common principles between both of these teachings. Number 1 is the idea of positive practice. Number 2 is the idea that these are both action philosophies. And then number 3 is that they're both rooted in oneness and service. So let's get started. Let's talk about first this idea of a practice that both of these are. You see, because it's not just something that we learn about cognitively, it's not just something we do once, but martial arts and the science of mind and spirit is a practice. It's something that we do on a continuous basis, and we continue to grow and expand through those experiences. Now, I don't know about you. I know that sometimes in my spiritual life, I thought, man, I got this lesson down. And I thought, man, I'll never have to deal with this again. And pretty soon what happens? It shows up again. And I have to go back to my basic practices to make sure that I can navigate through these times of challenge. The same thing happens in martial arts. You see, in martial arts, the idea of the black belt is one that everybody knows and is aware of. And we think about it as someone who is of a high level of achievement or expertise. But quite honestly, in martial arts, that first level of black belt is nothing more than the master of the basics, the master of the basics. And just like we have in martial arts, when we begin to master the basics of our spiritual practices, that's when we can have the most rich and fulfilling life. I remember when I first got my junior black belt. This was 1977. I was 14 years old. Okay, you can do the math on how old I am. And I guess there was some part of me that thought as soon as I earned that rank and I put on that belt, all of my skills were going to just go through the roof. Like magically, I was going to be able to kick better and strike better and fight better and everything. And it wasn't the case. I remember the first time I put it on, I was like, man, my right leg is still better than my left leg. I just didn't have that magical experience. And it got brought home when Master Lee taught me a lesson that I've never forgotten. In fact, what he did was this. He was getting ready to teach me my next form. Now, those of you who've done martial arts before, you know that we have things in Japanese, they would call it a kata. In Korean, they would call it a hyung or a pumse. And these are prearranged movements that you do to show your level of skill and advancement. And I was going to get ready to learn my first black belt form. And I was so excited. And we were going through the various movements, and we came to a movement that I had been doing since I was a yellow belt, one of my first belts. It was called a knife hand guarding block. And for whatever reason, I wasn't doing it the way the Grandmaster Lee wanted me to do. And so what he said to me is he stopped and he said, go in front of the mirror and practice this 100 times with the right side forward, then 100 times with the left side forward. And I have to tell you, I not only was disappointed, I was angry at him for the first time in my life. I mean, how could he have me go and do something and practice something so basic? But as I started to go through this process, and now as I look back at it, he was anchoring in me the importance of practice. And I can tell you now, I can do that technique pretty well. So how does that equate into our spirituality? Well, I want to share with you some basic practices that I do each and every day that I call the 6 M's of morning mastery. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I start my day, what I want to be able to do is anchor it in the best way through my spiritual practices so that I can have the best experience possible. And so these 6 M's are something I do each and every day. And I'm going to share these with you. And maybe you do one, maybe you do three, maybe you do all 6. But I leave these as to you as a gift for how you can move powerfully through your life. And so the first one, the first M, is spending each day in some form of meditation, whether that's sitting on a meditative pillow and doing your work, whether it's walking in nature, but spending some time anchoring with the inner champion that I would call it inside of us. Number 2 is mind treatment. We would say spiritual mind treatment. So doing the powerful affirmative prayer that we all know so well to anchor in what we want to create, not only for this day, but also for our lives. Next, I call mental imaging. So not only doing our spiritual mind treatment with just the words, but actually anchoring it with a visualization for what we want to create. And not only just in our mind's eye, but also feeling it. You know, I had a teacher tell me years ago, he said, Chris, if you're going to fantasize, you might as well win. And how many times do we fantasize in our lives? Do we mental image on the things we don't want? But making sure here that we're anchoring with what we do. Number next is movement. Now, what does this have to do with our spirituality? Well, movement of our bodies, our spiritual vessels, if you will, is a way for us to anchor into our souls, right? And so that doesn't have to be intense exercise. It could be light stretching, it could be walking, it could be doing whatever you choose it to be, but anchoring in our bodies through some type of movement. Next is motivation. And I get my motivation through reading and through listening to audio tapes and videos, things that will uplift me. And then finally, the final M is memoir, making time to journal, making time to scribe the things that are in my mind and on my heart that I can utilize to anchor my centeredness with myself and with God. So those are my 6 M's of morning mastery. And those, I think, are a wonderful practice for each and every one of us to start our days on. Let's go to our next piece of what I want to share with you. And that's this idea of martial arts and science of mind and spirit being action philosophies. Now, I think each one of you know that, just praying and just imagining and just imaging and just affirming what we want is only a part of what we need to do in order to create what we want in our lives. Martial arts is the very same way. We can't get a black belt. We can't practice martial arts by just imaging it in our mind. Now, that's an important practice, but it has to be done physically. It has to be done and anchored in this physical way. And it's the same way with the science of mind and spirit. And I want to show you this quote from not only the founder, the person who brought Taekwondo, my martial art, to the United States, but our founder in the science of mind and spirit, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And so Grandmaster Jun Rhee here is on the left-hand side, and he is known as the father of American Taekwondo. In 1956, he brought Taekwondo to San Marcos, Texas, and was the first one to teach it here in the States, and actually paved the way for people like my instructor to come. And he's known to say 2 things. He's number 1 to say is that martial arts is an action philosophy. And number 2 is if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then an action is worth 1,000 pictures. And then, of course, Dr. Holmes, one of his best known quotes is that all the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and act as if it were true. It's a matter of not only believing it, my friends, but it's about acting. It's about taking the actions to make it happen. Now, what's so interesting about this is that science of mind and spirit and martial arts is not just something we do, it's something we live. And it's not only something we live during easy times, it's certainly something we do during challenging times. And it reminds me of a story that I have of one of my favorite students throughout the years. His name was Nabil. Now, Nabil came to me when he was about 7 or 8 years old. He was moving from Southern California with his mom, who was a single mom at the time, and his little sister. And Nabil had been training in martial arts for a few years at another school in California when he came to us. And to say that Nabil was a highly skilled martial artist is not the case. He really struggled. He was just average at best. But I'll tell you what, he had this light inside of him, and he loved his martial art training, and he just kept showing up. He just kept showing up. And pretty soon, over the course of 3 to 4 years, he tested and received his junior first degree black belt. But Nabil didn't stop there. You see, he had his sights set now on taking the action to get his second degree black belt, which he did. Then he became a volunteer instructor for us. Then he started on our demonstration team, which traveled all over the state of Colorado performing in front of audiences. And then finally, now we fast forward to his senior year of high school, and he's working at my school as one of my staff members, and he's become one of my top instructors. In fact, at 17 years old, he had the maturity level of someone in their mid-20s, and the parents loved him, the students loved him, and just what an amazing young man. Now, Nabil had a dream. Nabil's dream is that he wanted to go to the Colorado School of Mines. See, his mother had remarried, and his stepfather and he had developed a very close relationship, and he wanted to follow his stepdad's career into the petroleum industry. So he wanted to be an engineer. And so he wanted to follow in those footsteps and go to the Colorado School of Mines. Now, one day I came into the studio, and there was Nabil at the front desk waiting for me. And unlike how he would usually approach me with a big smile on his face and bright eyes, I could tell his energy was down. And he asked if we could step into the office so he could have a discussion with me. And we went into the office, and he proceeded to tell me that he had gotten a letter. And it was a letter from the School of Mines saying that he had not been accepted. You see, Nabil had gotten a C in chemistry his sophomore year of high school, and he was devastated. Well, we talked about, how he was dealing with this. And then we started to talk about his plans moving forward. And what his idea was is he was going to go to another university here in Colorado for his freshman year. And then he was going to transfer over to School of Mines his sophomore year. I said, great plan, buddy. And we left. Well, about 2 weeks later, I came back into the school, and there was Nabil again. Although this time he was at the front of the desk, and he had this big megawatt grin on his face, and he couldn't wait to go into the office and talk to me. And then he proceeded to tell me this. On his own accord, at 17 years old, he had called up the admissions director of the Colorado School of Mines and asked to have a meeting with him. And that meeting was nothing more than to find out what courses he needed to take at his other school so that he could transfer to the School of Mines in the fall of the next year. But it wasn't that he just came forward that way. He came forward with enthusiasm, with passion for his dream, and he was stepping forward into his greatness. And during the middle of one important sentence, the admissions director held up his hand and said, "Stop right there." Nabil paused, wondering if he had said something wrong. And the admissions director said, "Son, stop right there. I'm admitting you to the Colorado School of Mines right now. Don't you ever get a C in chemistry again." And I love that story. And about 2 months later, Nabil tested with a whole bunch of other black belts and got his third degree black belt with us. And the last I had heard, he had graduated from School of Mines and is now living his dream career. But what is so anchored in this story is that he moved his feet. He took action. Do you think at 17 years old, it was a little scary to sit in front of that admissions director? Darn right it was, but he took the action. And because what he was doing is he was living a principle that we teach all of our students that I want to share with you now. And it's called the Black Belt Cycle of Success. And that Black Belt Cycle of Success goes like this. It's that we have to know what we want. We have to have a plan. We have to have a success coach, someone who could help mentor us through the process. We have to take consistent action, and not just a one-time action, but consistently day in and day out. Then number 5 is to review your progress. So take a look back and see what progress you've made along the path. And then after you've achieved your goal, then you renew it to a new goal. Now, how does that impact us? And how does that work with us in the science of mind and spirit? Well, I'm going to give you my metaphysical interpretation of the Black Belt Cycle of Success. And number 1, it's set your intention. Get very clear about what you want to create. Number 2 is to spiritually mind treat about what you want. When you have that plan, not only see the end result of what you want in your treatment, but actually see yourself stepping through each and individual step to get where you want to do or get to where you want to go. Number 3 is connect with spirit. So spirit is our success coach. Now that could be in our direct experience with source. It could also be in our experience with ministers, practitioners, prayer partners, friends. However, spirit is speaking to us and through others is a way to connect. Number next is treat and move your feet, right? Take consistent action. So get very clear, get very intentional on what you want, but then take that next right step. And it doesn't need to be a massive step. It could be a small incremental step that builds on another and another and another. Then contemplate. Contemplate where you've gone. Take time each day or each week about just observing where you've been, where you need to move next. And then next is set your next intention, create a new intention. So there you have it. There's my formula for black belt success in not only the martial arts, but in the science of mind and spirit. All right, let's move to my final point that I want to make with you today. And that's this idea of oneness and oneness through service. You know, one of the most important things I think that I've learned through my study of the science of mind and spirit is this idea that we are all one. That there's an element of God that lives inside of each and every one of us. And it's interesting because I realized that I kind of always had that feeling when I was teaching martial arts as well, because we are so anchored in this element of respect and courtesy toward others. And it's because what we're doing is we're reflecting that piece of God inside of us onto another person. And what's so beautiful about the martial arts is that when we're practicing the martial arts, although you may think it's that of a combat and actually injuring someone through fighting, it's when we know that part of ourselves that can act in that powerful and possibly destructive way, what we do is we begin to have a much greater appreciation for life and for others. And we have a much greater discernment for using our power and wanting to use it in a powerful and positive way. In fact, I can think of so many of my friends, and myself included, as we've moved through the martial art journey, we've moved from the combatant to the healer. I have some friends who have moved into medicine, some that have moved into massage. I happen to do this through my speaking, is being able to heal. And in my discipline of Taekwondo, we have 9 degrees of black belt. And the first 3, first, second, and third degree black belt is basically known as the fighter, the combatant. 4, 5, and 6, 4th, 5th, and 6th degree, we become the teachers. And then 7th, 8th, and 9th degree, we become the philosophers and the healers. Now, why is that so important? Because we have this innate oneness inside of us. And even when we're practicing martial arts, we have something that's called the water principle. When a strike comes at me, rather than forcefully damaging it, I roll with it. I move with it. And the same thing happens with life. I want to share with you one final slide here, because one of my favorite authors in the spiritual realm is Wayne Dyer. And in his book, The Power of Intention, he talks about this idea of oneness and how each and every one of us are impacted through doing service and acts of kindness with one another. And he said that when we do an act of service towards someone else, what ends up happening is there's this wonderful chemical reaction that happens in the body. And it's serotonin and oxytocin. They are the feel-good hormones. And so when we do an act of service towards someone, of course, you'll see, like you see in this elderly gentleman here with a smile on his face, he's being served, and there's a spike in serotonin and oxytocin that brings him a feeling of wholeness, a feeling of happiness, right? But what's so interesting about that is that feeling doesn't stop there. If you take a look at the 2 people that are helping him walk here and serving, you see the smile on their faces as well. In fact, what scientists would tell us is that the level of oxytocin and serotonin not only spikes in the receiver of service, but also in the giver. But this is where it really gets great. Take a look at this lady here on the side and notice the smile on her face. You see, what's happening with her is she's also having that spike in serotonin and oxytocin. So if you want to be contagious through kindness. See, because we are all one. And when we act in that kind way, what we're doing is we're making this ripple effect, sending spirit throughout the world. And so I guess to end this, what I want to do is I want to share with you one final story. And this is something that I love sharing the story because it's one of the most impactful in my martial art career. And it's about one of my students named Josh. Now, Josh came to me as a 4-year-old. He started in what was called the Little Ninja program. He was a little short little kid with red fluffy hair and big ears and freckles. And when you looked at Josh, you didn't know if he was ever going to make it to black belt, but he stuck with it. And 6 years later, he's getting ready to test for his junior first degree black belt. Now, like all of Josh's, like all my black belts, Josh had to go through some pretty arduous training, for a minimum of 3 to 3.5 years. Now, Josh had to do it for 6 because of his age. He couldn't test till he was 10, but this is some arduous training for these 3 to 4 years. But then the final 16 weeks, we really turn it up. We really turn it up, getting them ready for their black belt test. And they have to do some physical things, like they have to do 4,000 push-ups and 4,000 crunches. They have to spar 120 rounds. They have to run 40 miles in those 4 months. But that's not what I'm most happy and most encouraged about. You see, in addition to all those physical things, they also have to do some great work in growing as human beings. They have to do 400 random acts of kindness that are recorded. And for the last 12 years, we've created over 250,000 random acts of kindness in our organization. They have to mentor someone for 10 sessions, teaching or mentoring a brother or a sister or helping in some way. They have to eat clean for an entire week. No sugar, no processed foods, no alcohol. Getting 10-year-olds off beer is tough, but I make it happen. And finally, the one that I love the most is they have to spend a day in empathy. They have to spend a 24-hour period either being blind, deaf, mute, or in a wheelchair. Now, Josh, he knows exactly what he's going to do when he hears this assignment. He's going to spend his day in a wheelchair because he has an Uncle Jimmy. You see, Uncle Jimmy is a Vietnam vet, and he's been paralyzed from the waist down for as long as Josh has known him. And as soon as he hears this assignment, he calls up Uncle Jimmy. He says, Uncle Jimmy, I'm going to spend a day in a wheelchair, and I'm going to do it in honor of you for my black belt. And Jimmy says, hold the phone there, buddy. I know you too well. If you're going to spend a day in a chair, all you're going to be doing is popping wheelies down the road. He said, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it right. You're going to spend 2 days in the chair. And on the second day, Uncle Jimmy drove up Josh's driveway in his customized van and lowered the hydraulic lift. Josh rolled in, got into the back seat. His dad got in the front seat with Uncle Jimmy, and they went to Craig Hospital. And what they all went to is the rehabilitation ward. And Josh got to see a man who was a new quadriplegic, breathing through a tube in order to move a chair. Now, you can imagine this impacted Josh on a deep level. And so he came back home and he was supposed to write an essay about this experience for me. And he began writing it immediately. But before he turned it into me, he sent it in to Uncle Jimmy. And Jimmy looked at it and said, man, this is awesome. And he sent it into the headquarters of the Disabled American Veterans Association. Well, they got a look at it and they said, wow, this is awesome. And they published it in their national newsletter. Well, people started reading this, right? And they're going, wow, kid, black belt, Denver, wait a minute. We're doing our national convention in Denver this year. Let's have him speak. So a couple months later, there was Josh in front of 250 disabled American veterans at the podium reading his essay. So at 10 years old, he not only was a junior black belt, but he was a published author and a keynote speaker. Not bad, right? Now, when I share that story with you, my sense is it brought some joy inside of you in some way, shape, or form. There was a strong, warm feeling that resonated in you. And the reason that it did is because that resonates inside all of us. We all have that desire to give, to serve, to make others' lives better. And that's what the Science of Mind Spirit and the martial arts has done for me. So I want to thank you again for allowing me to come and share my message today. I love Reverend Jody. I love your community. And I wish you nothing but the best in this new year so that you can take and bring action and bring practice and bring service to the way that you work in the world. Thanks so much.
sunsets of velvet shadow, crimson in the sky. Craters turn into canyons, mountains stretch high. Stars are sparks of silver, an echo in the night. Someone's holding their hand out, someone's reaching to hold it tight. And there is you, there's me. I might be the daughter of the sun, you might sail the seven seas. It's not the rituals we believe in, but that we all believe. We believe life is a golden miracle, all one breath that we all breathe. I can feel the power of the ocean. I feel the passion in the wind. It's like we all have our own road to travel, meeting in the middle as friends. I see the beauty of your way. Come on, celebrate mine. A kaleidoscope, a fusion of color. Let that light shine, shine down on you, shine on me. You might be the mist in the midnight, and I'm the thunder rolling free. You know it's the good that we all reach for. That's the unity. Life is a golden miracle, one breath that we all breathe. You know it's the good that we all reach for. That's the unity. And I want you to know, remember that it's life, and it's a golden miracle. One breath that we all breathe.
So one of the things that I love to do now, and I didn't for years, is to actually tithe. Fortunately, I'm married to someone who's as passionate as I am, and we love to take 10% off of the top and give it to God. And the place where I love to give the most is at the Centers for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. So as we give, we also receive. As we give of our tithes and our contributions to the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley, we give to a greater expression of life and love. And as we know, at the Centers for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley, love lives here. So the gifts that we give always bless the giver and the receiver. So if you would, please hold your energy of giving to your heart, or if you have a check. I am so old fashioned. I love to write checks. And then send them in. But you can also give through PayPal, through texting, if you go online, you'll see the different ways. But please do give. And join me right now as you hold your gifts in hand. Say, this perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. Amen. And thank you so much for your generosity. So, Chris, I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your magic. I want to thank the musicians and the practitioners and everyone who make this happen. We have a lot going on, some behind the scenes, some online. So please check out our newsletter. The most important announcement that I have for you today is this afternoon at 11:30, we will be doing I laugh because I've never done one before, our annual meeting online. Now, I have been to a lot of annual meetings, but I've never done one online. So, it's all new and it's all good. And love lives here. So we'll have a great time reviewing the past, looking forward to the future, looking where we are financially, and celebrating the truth that love lives here. I'll see you at 11:30.
And so each of the practitioners here at the center are available for prayer anytime you need it. We can be contacted via email, by our telephone numbers. We're all listed on the church website. So please visit us there, check us out. After service, practitioner will be available for prayer at that time. So take advantage. Even if you just want to say hi, we love to talk to you anyway. We love to pray with you. Thank you very much. And so now, let's say our benediction together.
I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God. I now listen so that whoever speaks with me knows that I hear the voice of God. Whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For spirit and I are one eternally, and so it is. This is a place we all get together, 'cause we know we belong. A place for loving and caring, healing and sharing, and helping each other grow and be strong. A place where we celebrate spirit. I can't wait for you to hear it. No matter where you are, this is our place. It can be your place. No matter how near or far, this is our place. Come on in. Our place, glad you're here. Our place, everybody's welcome. We see God on every face. Our place, stay a while. Our place, love lives here. Our place, everybody's welcome. We see God on every face. Aren't you glad you found your way home to a family of friends where you know
Original music written and performed by Karen Karsh. Copyright held by Karen Karsh Crystal Music. All rights reserved.
Love lives here!